Okay?
Stop share mulai lagi dari awal.
Good evening to our viewers in Indonesia and a good morning, afternoon to those joining us from other parts of the world. Welcome to PRANKS, Project Management Knowledge Sharing, brought to you by the PMI, Project Management Institute Indonesia chapter. My name is Iksan Lukira. I am a program board member of the chapter at PMI Indonesia, and I will be your host today. On the behalf of the PMI Indonesia and the chapter volunteers, I would like to extend our very welcome to our speakers and all the attendees tonight. If this is the first time for you to join the pranks, this is a regular event that we run twice a month, and we invite a subject matter experts and practitioners to share their knowledge, ideas, and experiences. So if you would like to speak at our event, or if you have any suggestions for speakers that you would like to us to host, do reach out to us through our website or social media channels. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. So it is inevitable that project controls and performance management will determine the success of the projects. With a solid analysis, allow making complex project more manageable, reducing business risk and uncertainty in project delivery. There is a plenty of variety tools available. Power BI and Primavera P6 both are known as a powerful analytics tools assist to project planning and project performance control efficiently. And today, we are so lucky. We are going to talk about Power BI from the experts. And joining us from United Kingdom, GC, a project planning and control experts. Quick introductions about our speakers, GZ. So GZ is a subject expert on a Power BI and Primavera P6 with over 12 years of experience, and he possesses in-depth knowledge in project controls, best practices, and widely validated with international credential in the areas of project and cost management, such as CCP, PMP, EVP, earned value professional, and also Primavera P6 implementation specialist. He's also currently working as a digital planning and reporting manager for BEM Natal on a multi-million-pound rail project in the UK. So this project is aims to connecting Manchester via Leeds. With experience across rail, civils, tunneling, mining, and housing projects, GC also holds different professional certifications with plenty recognitions. He also has been an active member of AACE International and founding the AACE Peru section in 2013. 2013, and serving on the board of directors of AACE Internationals in the Latin America. So please welcome Jeancarlo Duran Maica. Good afternoon, GZ. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation to be today here. I don't know if you can you hear me and watch me?
Yes, yes. We are delighted to have you, and we are looking forward for a very insightful session and engaging discussions.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Perfect, perfect. But before we start, I would like to remind our attendees. So there is some ground rules for the attendees to preserve the quality of the sessions. We would like all the attendees microphone will be on mute, and also the videos, the cameras. And if you have any questions or inquiries, please submit to our chat box with a letter Q, so we can notice there is a question from you. And this session will be recorded, and the presentation will be distributed by our local chapter, and the e-certificate also will be distributed via email, and also the videos will be added to your credential automatically, and this is very exclusive for our PMI chapter local member. You can also join our channel at YouTube if you can join this room. And here we are. And with that, I sincerely hope that you enjoy the session. And now I will hand over it to GZ. Please welcome.
Again, give me a second. Sometimes it gets, there you are. Thank you all for connecting. And today we have a quite interesting topic to go through. It's about Power BI and how we can use Power BI for the purposes of project management, because this is the PMI Indonesia chapter. So we want to talk about project management and project control. So I'm going to try to make that connection between these two topics. Power BI is a tool for the business analytics, business intelligence, and you can use that for different purposes. I could be working for Pepsi or for Coca-Cola, and I could be providing business intelligence for that company. So it's a different market, a different industry, but I can use the data to bring value to my organization. Same way, likewise, we're gonna see some applications, some uses of how we can leverage on the use of Power BI and business analytical tools for the purposes of project management. Mainly, in my case, is mainly construction, engineering, construction projects, but you could name any type of project, IT projects, healthcare projects, it could be the same. All right. So let me see. Hello to the people out there. Ramon, Haryadi, thank you so much for the welcoming words. Let's get our hands on this topic. All right, so let me share my slides. I prepared a couple of slides over here, so I'm going to share my screen. You can check them up, and we can walk you through that topic today. So Power BI, the title we put to this presentation is the one-click reporting tool for project controls, and that's quite important, guys, because we want to get into a stage where we actually want to just click one button and our reporting, our reports, our performance to be displayed on the screen. So we want to avoid all that manual data preparation, data collection that generally we go through every single period. And we want to avoid that because it's manual, because it's repetitive, because it's not providing value. So that the fact that we are spending hours and hours preparing the data, it's not providing value. The value comes with the information we can provide, so people can then take action, make informed decisions, and so on. It's about the information. It's not the data itself, it's the information we provide, right? So let's see how we can get into that point. So we're going to start talking about that most general case, the situation that is most commonly seen. My project status reports take days, if not weeks, from the time I gather and consolidate all the data from the various peoples that forms my project. And probably if you are working right now or you are kind of studying, you will get to see, you will get to experience that time it takes for people to produce reports is a lot. Sometimes it could be couple of days, sometimes could be weeks, depending on how many data sources, data streams you have, how many people is involved in providing you that information. So that could be a really haunting task to do manually, right? And the main reason for that is, as I was telling, is because you actually are trying to manipulate so many data streams. And it could be that you could be using, for example, Primavera P6 is a scheduling tool. You build up all your master programs in there, but then if you want to show what the status of that schedule, there is no really straightforward way to do that if the person who you are talking to, they don't have access to Primavera P6, right? So I'm the planner, I use Primavera P6, but I want to tell my project manager what is the situation of the schedule. If we are behind the schedule, what's the SPI, CPI. If he hasn't got the access to P6, it's going to be quite impossible for him to get to know that. So the main way we do that generally in projects in real life is that the planner will export a spreadsheet, kind of will copy paste the data from P6 into a spreadsheet, will spend a lot of hours trying to gather it up, put it in a nice way so the project manager can understand what is the status of that schedule, right? So that's one way, or sometimes you just will PDF the schedule, and then the project manager will end up having 35 pages of a schedule that he doesn't understand, and he doesn't have the time to go through every single row of that PDF. So in the end, it doesn't fit the purpose to inform, you know? So there are other ways. But we say that because you're gonna see yourself in this position where you have different software, different data repositories, and it takes a lot of time to bring all that various sources into one single source of truth. Like today, most of the time in engineering construction project, we just use Excel. We use spreadsheets to try to collate all the information that is out there, right? So that is a lengthy task. And then you get emails and they're asking different things. And then this is you have that kind of email where someone is telling, the logistic guy is telling you, okay, JC, this is my last version of the everything we have consumed in the warehouse. And then 2 minutes later, you receive another email. No, sorry, this is the updated version. No, sorry, this is the final version. And so on. And then it never ends. It never ends, that process, manual process of collating that data. And we want to avoid that, right? And that's why we want to use Power BI to streamline that generation, that manual generation of reports in Excel, okay? So now the question is, what if we could have this one-click reporting tool? And I think that Power BI is getting really close to this stage. Of course, it's not going to be magic. It's not going to be magical. It's not going to be like, okay, I just learned to use Power BI and everything's going to be one click. There's going to be a lot of work beforehand. So you need to set up your report. You need to understand how that data is coming, how you need to prepare the data, model the data. There are some steps that you need to spend. And the very first time you do that, well, it's going to be kind of the same time you spend doing it manually, right? And then you can say, JC, but if I'm going to spend the same time you were doing that manually, why do I want to learn Power BI? Because the thing is that once you have set it up for the very first time, and everything is done, all the data sources are collated, are connected to Power BI. Now, from that moment on, every single period, every single period update, you are just going to need to click one button and all your report is going to be refreshed, it's going to be updated, right? And that is kind of the key of what we want to get, automation in that process. Whereas if you look to the right and see that manual process, yeah, you have to do once, and then the next period you have to do all over again, you know, and the next period all over again. And that is what we want to avoid, right? Okay, so that is where we are heading on. So goal of this session is help you understand better Power BI. What are the applications you can implement using Power BI? How you can connect that to, for example, tools like Primavera P6 to produce high impact reports. And I'm gonna give you some recommendations on how to learn more about Power BI. So quick introduction. I have already been lovely introduced to you by your colleagues, so I'm going to skip this. One thing I want to mention that is quite important. I am a Microsoft certified data analyst, and this is a Microsoft recognition that you get once you approve a technical examination, and that is basically on Power BI. So I'm quite happy to get that. I got that last year, so was one of the latest certification I've got, and I'm really proud about that one. Obviously, because I'm preaching about Power BI, so I needed to be certificated to do that the right way. So quick about me, about my journey, more than my professional experience, about my journey with Power BI. So I have to tell you that I'm originally from Peru. Nowadays I'm working in the UK, but originally from Peru. So I started my career, I'm a civil engineer, and in 2008, I got the opportunity to go to Sao Paulo, to Brazil. This is South America. And I got an amazing opportunity there to study abroad for 1 year. I learned Portuguese, really cool atmosphere, lovely country. And then at that time, I was finishing my career, civil engineering, and I told myself, oh man, this is amazing, just to go to another country, they speak another language, because in Peru we speak Spanish. I had to speak Portuguese in Brazil. So it was such an amazing journey that I said, okay, when I finish my career, I'm gonna find an opportunity to go and work abroad, because I already studied in a different language. Now I want to work in a different language. And that's when I decided to go to Belgium to do an MBA. So in 2017, I decided to go to Belgium to do an MBA, right? And then in Belgium, after I completed that MBA, that was the first time I was introduced in 2017. I was introduced to Power BI. So one of the subjects there in the MBA was, let's talk about data analytics. Let's talk about business intelligence tools. So that was amazing, because my background was construction, civil engineering, project controls, but I never heard about Power BI or BI, because those were tools more kind of linked to, I know, logistics, IT, other type of projects, you know. But the MBA gave me that insight. And then I decided, this is a picture of me in Brazil in 2008. And then when I graduated from Belgium in my business school. So before that, I used to spend long hours sitting behind my desk, crunching my numbers when I was working in Peru. I never used Power BI. But during my MBA in 2017, I was introduced to Power BI, and I said, okay, we definitely can do things faster and smarter in the engineering and construction industry if we start using Power BI. And that was kind of the idea I got. And then luckily, I got an opportunity to go to study, start a job opportunity in the UK. So I went to UK in 2018. And the first thing I wanted to do was to implement somehow, I didn't know how at the time, but I wanted to implement Power BI in one of my construction projects. So I went with that idea, and from that moment on, I became like a specialist of this, and I'm preaching now Power BI across that globe, right? So let's see what is the agenda, and if you have some questions, please pop them in the chat box. I'm gonna go through them at the end of the session, but just for you to remember them, just pop them in the chat. So what we're going to see here is, why do we need this automated reporting? how we can connect to different type of data sources, or how Power BI can collect those different data sources, Excel's, web-based information, databases. So we're going to show as well how you can create some interactions between Power BI and some other tools. In my case, project controls tools like Primavera P6, Revit, Power Apps, and things like that. And finally, I'm going to give you some recommendations for if you want to learn more about this. Okay. So understanding the reporting problem is probably the best starting point, right? So we want to know why we need to change things, right? Because if things are going just well, there is no purpose to try to improve anything, right? But generally, what I've seen in my 12 years of experience working in different construction companies is this typical picture you see here. So this would be me, right? Working with Primavera P6. This is a screen of Primavera P6 where you are building up your schedules and your activities and all that. And then the next task I will do is I will need to translate everything I'm building on P6. I will need to translate that into a spreadsheet. Why? Because if I want to communicate these findings, or if we are behind the schedule, if there is some work package that is not working well, I need to communicate that. I need to talk to people who are in charge of those work packages. And the thing is that I cannot just tell them like, oh, just hopping into to Primavera P6 and check that line. No, because they don't have access to Primavera P6, right? Then the other thing is to PDF that, but then it will be thousands of pages, and they are not going to read that through. So the best approach we have had in the past has been we need to translate things. So it's similar to English. We generally translate everything into English because that's kind of the common language for everyone. So the exactly same thing happens in construction progress. We have several tools, several software, but we tend to translate everything into spreadsheets because that is the common language for everyone, right? So I will be doing this, replicating that. Can you imagine the time it takes to me to replicate this screen on a spreadsheet just for people to share that spreadsheet with people, and they have access and they can interact with me. So it's a lengthy task, it's a repetitive task. It doesn't have much value to the project really. So that's the problem really. So the current outlook, now things are changing, of course, but a couple of years ago, the current outlook of the reporting cycle was something like that. We had so many manual repetitive tasks. It was really hard to track the changes. We lack of standardization. So I received one spreadsheet from one guy of my team, then I received a totally different one from a different department. And I just had to kind of juggle with them, like kind of try to make my way through the diversification we had in terms of data sources. The main reason for that is because Excel is still the predominant tool in our environment. Yeah, so this becomes a really time-consuming task where you need to import, export, consolidate your data from the different tools, different software into spreadsheets. We want to prevent that. We want to avoid that. So in the end, you see yourself spending a lot of time in data preparation, trying to collate all that data, make a sense of that, but you really spend short time for assessment, for evaluation, for actually, okay, what is that data telling me? What is the action I'm going to take from there, right? We spend very few hours on that, and it should be the otherwise, right? So in the end, what happens is that this is JC, this is the guy. I've been sitting there behind that desk so many years, receiving a lot of multiple data sources in a raw status, right? And I was trying to crunch those numbers. I spent loads of hours in Excel using sometimes pivot tables, macros, just somehow that will aid me to crunch those numbers and make sense of that data, right? To in the end, issue a one-off final report. And this is just going to be a one-off because the next period of day, the next month, I'm going to receive all over again, all this data, and I will need to use, again, all my arts, all my dark arts in terms of using pivot table macros to replicate this one off. It will start from scratch. Instead, if you see here, this is some statistics I took from one study that was done on engineering and construction projects, that 61% of our time as a data analyst, as a project controllers, we spend on non-value activities. Activities such as fixing Excel issues, collating internal, external reports, exporting to Excel, all those processes we do, trying to collate everything into a spreadsheet is really it's a waste of time, to be honest, right? And we actually just spend less than 40% doing what is actually adding value to our projects, like is monitoring our schedules, our costs, change management, forecasting. We spend really, really short time on those activities. And those are the ones that actually give us the greatest value, right? So we want to avoid this situation. We want to go from this situation into this one, where we start using BI analytics. And what this is going to allow us, guys, is that we are going to start receiving the raw data, multiple sources, even a larger number of sources, but we're going to use the components that we find in Power BI. One of them is Power Query. So Power Query is going to help us to shape our data. So Power Query is going to, if you receive this messy raw data, with Power Query, you're going to start transforming the columns, pivoting the rows, changing the data types, removing the errors, cleaning up the data. That is what Power Query does. And the great thing of that is that it's going to record every single of the steps, every single of the transformation steps is going to be recorded through Power Query. So you just need to do them once. And for the next time, the data is going to go through that workflow without you even touching anything, right? So Power Query is part of that cleaning process, but is automated. And then the next thing you're going to need to do is use Power Pivot. Power Pivot is another component inside of Power BI. Everything is inside of Power BI. These are not separate tools. Everything goes with Power BI. And Power Pivot will allow you to model the data. So, for example, if you are receiving the schedule data from P6 and you're receiving your cost data from, I don't know, RS Prism or any other tool that SAP, whatever you are using for cost management, you're going to need to model these data sources because they need to talk to each other. And there's going to be a set of rule parameters you're going to need to fix. So you need to model the data because that is the only way you are going to be able to provide data visualization, right? To build up this report. So that is the workflow you go through with Power BI. But the great thing about this is that this is going to be automated. You set it up this once, and then every time raw data is coming in, it's going to come out in a beautiful way because it's automated behind the scenes. So there are some other companies from different industries, like Lenovo has reported already 95% of efficiency increase. PepsiCo reports 90% of reduction in the production time they use to prepare these reports. And this is a source. This is actual facts. You can see how much you can save just by using business intelligence tools. So now let's talk about Power BI itself. So let's deep dive. So we just set the scene now and say, okay, yeah, the way we are doing reporting is not probably the most efficient. So let me see what we can get with Power BI. So Power BI is a business analytics service by Microsoft. It's free. So you can go to Microsoft Power BI, the website, and you can download Power BI for free. You can create your user account for free. The only thing about creating a user account is that it's going to ask you to use non-public domain. Like you cannot use a Gmail or a Yahoo or a Hotmail. It's not allowed. You need to use, it could be one from your company, it could be one from your uni, anything that has a domain different from a public domain is acceptable, but you cannot use a Gmail, for example, that unfortunately is not permitted. And what you are going to do with Power BI is following these steps. So once you have identified what are the data sources you want to collect, the first step is to prepare the data, to clean the data up, right? And data preparation comes hand in hand with the use of Power Query. That is, the purpose is for that data shaping, right? And Power Query is going to be something like that. If you open your Power BI, probably I have my own version of Power BI over here. If you open, this is Power BI, and then you have transform data. This is one of the features there in the menu. And transform data is the one that will open Power Query. When you click on transform data, you're going to open up the Power Query window, and then every single transformations you go through with the data source you have just connected, all those steps will get recorded on your right-hand side of the screen. So I connected to this source, then I changed the data type, I expanded the actual start date, and I filter some rows because I'm just going to focus on those ones. So all these steps are recorded, and you don't need to do them again, never again. You just need to refresh that data set, and then the report will get refreshed. So that's the first step, shaping the data. Once the data is in a good state, then you can use Power Pivot that you will use for data modeling. And Power Pivot is something like this. If you go to Power BI, you will find that here on the third bottom on the vertical left-hand side, you can go to model. And this is kind of the user interface for Power Pivot. And here you're going to find all the tables, all the data sources, all the data sets you have connected to Power BI. And the next thing you will need to start creating relationships between one of these fields, one to another table, right? And then you can manage your relationships. Why do you need to do that? Because that's the only way to make different data sources to talk to each other. For example, I have an example here. So I connected this data set to this one, and this one to this one. And there is kind of obviously a thorough process in determining how we're going to make these connections. And this is basically based on how your data is set up, right? So it's kind of mimicking what databases do. You're trying to mimic that for your own data set, right? And the last thing is that data visualization using just merely Power BI. And that's probably the most exciting part, because people love to see graphs and reports and things like that. So this is an example of a report created with Power BI for project controls, and this is showing the schedule update. So we're going to see something like that in the next minutes, right? So this is kind of the process. I want you to understand the process because it's important. Whenever you want to start with Power BI, or if you have started already, you know that you need to follow through these steps, these processes. It's Power Query for data shaping, Power Pivot for data modeling, and finally Power BI for data visualization, right? Just to give you a structure of what we do. Now, we have talked a lot about, Power BI will be connected to different data sources and so on. But how we do that? How is that possible, right? So we have characterized that by different levels of data connectivity, right? And this is kind of my own thing. I don't think you're going to find this in any other textbook or things like that. This is a pyramid. I prepare for my own company because we wanted to give some structure to them. I defined like 5 levels of data connectivity. And basically, when you start your journey, you want to start from the very basics. Probably that level 5 is gonna be the best fit for you. And level 5 is what we call the solo journey. And the solo journey, because this is when you have your Power BI on your computer and you receive a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet is in your laptop, and then you connect your Power BI to that spreadsheet, and this is you on your own, right? All the data is in your laptop, Power BI is in your laptop, and that's it. You start building from there your Power BI. So it's a local drive connection, right? Then you can scale this up and go to the next level. Like, let's say if we want to go to level 3, we can make a collaborative journey. And why do we say collaborative? Because now we are going to try to connect to on-cloud data sources. What is an example of an on-cloud? Could be you want to connect to SharePoint, you want to connect to OneDrive, to Google Drive, to Dropbox. So all these kind of data repositories that are cloud-based data repositories, they are easily connected to Power BI, right? So I'm gonna show an example of that with you guys. And it's more collaborative because if I give access on my Dropbox, I give access to 5 people to my data source, so they can change that immediately at any point. They got the access, they can change, it could be on a spreadsheet, they can change, update that spreadsheet, and that will travel directly to my Power BI report, no matter where you are, right? It's more collaborative because if you see the same process in level 5, the way you will do that is that the owner of that spreadsheet will need to work on their own, on their laptops. Once they finish, they will need to send that through an email or something like that. And then there is when it happens like, oh, this is the final, no, the final 2, final 3, and so on, right? And it never ends. So it will make more sense to work on cloud, right? And finally, probably that top level, level 1, is when you connect live dashboard to SQL database. So it's a SQL connection. It's not difficult to do that, but you will need to know a little bit more about SQL databases, right, and how they work. Okay, so let me break this down. So this is the framework, right? So let me break this down into examples. So if I want to start on level 5, connection to local drive, what do I need to do? So first of all, you are starting your first Power BI report. You define your requirements. If you already got a report in Excel on a spreadsheet, this is kind of the basis of the requirements. This is what people want to see. You can start from there. And then you can define the reporting architecture. So that means that how I'm collecting the data that is filling this up. So if that's a spreadsheet, if that is the spreadsheet, what are the columns I want to look at? If that is another database on cloud basis, let me see what is that reporting architecture. And once that is complete, then you open your Power BI. So first of all, it's always important you to map out all the data sources, what you want to build up, and then you start building that in Power BI. Just don't get excited and open Power BI and try to do whatever you can. It's always best to define requirements, focus on requirements, and define a reporting architecture. Right. So to do that level 5 local drive connection, what you're going to need to do, so if we come back to my Power BI screen, go back to my canvas. So here you will want to get data and you can connect to a local drive Excel. That will be the easiest way to connect to a data source. And that's exactly what we are showing here. Get data, Excel, could be a text, a PDF. From that moment, Power BI is going to ask you to find the file location, the path file, the file path, and finally, once you select the one you want to work with, then Power BI is going to preview that and going to give you all the tables that are inside of that spreadsheet. And from that moment on, you can click on, you select the tables and you can transform the data. That means you open Power Query for the data shaping process, just to remind that. So that's the easiest way to connect to in a level 5 local drive. But what about if we want to connect to a Power BI cloud connection? That is that level 3 I was talking before, right? So it's not difficult, it's exactly the same. So we are going to repeat those steps. We're going to go get data, but in this case, we are not going to go for Excel. We're going to go for a web connection, right? We use web connection. We click that web connection. And now what we need to do is obviously we need to know where that file we want to connect with is residing, right? So in my case, I'm going to use this one, the tracker. And I think Rio is going to help me out here because I have the Excel link to my Google Drive, to that file. And I want Rio to share that on the chat. Rio, if you can help me with that, can you just copy and paste that link on the chat? Because I want to do kind of a workshop right now with people. Can you see the link, guys? Yeah, Rio has shared that already. Can you just click on that link, guys? What that's going to do, lovely. Thank you, Rio. I saw that in the chat. So what that's going to do is going to give you access to my own spreadsheet, but that's a spreadsheet that is hosted on my Google Drive. a cloud-based service, right? You have access to it. I'm giving you access to it. You are in Indonesia. I mean, in the UK, our people could be connected from Peru, wherever you want to be connected. And what you should see is something like this. This is my tracker, right? I have already 22 people connected. Thank you so much, guys. You are helping me out. What I want you to do is start filling this up. It doesn't matter where you want to fill. You can fill down here in the row 40. Power BI is going to take care of that, right? You can make a mess of that. Only at least be be meaningful with the data, because you need to put the role here. What is your role? If you're a student, put the student. If you're working, put your role there. Then you put your country. In your case, put the city. I think that the city is going to be more meaningful, because I don't know how many people from different countries are here, but if you put your city or the name of the country is fine. And then just play with the number of years you have of experience and the years you might be using Power BI. None, just put 0. That's going to be fine. Okay. And let's see how we roll this out. Yeah, I see many people interacting. We have 26 people, lovely guys. But this is kind of the collaborative journey I was talking to you about. Like level 3, you remember, I can give access to other people. We can interact in a lively way. And then what I want to do now is I don't want to export this into a spreadsheet, and I don't want to start building my report from scratch. I already got my report prepared for this, right? I just want to click one button, and I want to see your data coming in from Indonesia into my computer in the UK. And that's kind of the exciting thing, right? I love that part. Let's see if we can work this out. So I saw many of you have already filling. So I'm gonna run that. Please, if you put project control professional Indonesia, please complete that, the years, obviously, because that is gonna make it's not gonna make a meaningful entry. So you need to complete the years. Put 00 if you don't have experience. Don't worry about that, but it has to be a number on there. And that's it. I'm gonna try to rock and roll with this. So this is the dashboard I already got kind of pre-made, like when you are making these videos with baking a pasta, a cake, you have already baked this. So what I want to do, I'm going to finish to explain how you connect. So you take that link from that Google Drive file, you share that with your participants. In this case, this is the exact same link Rio has shared with you. And from that moment on, you can connect, right? So you are going to use that to when you click on web, Power BI is going to give you this box, and you are just going to need to paste in that link into that box. You're going to need to change a little bit of the end part of the link, because this is the link I give to you is an edit mode, so it's for people to enter and edit. But if you want to Power BI to read that, you're going to need to change the termination of this link, and you need to put export format in Excel, because you want to export that data into Power BI. So it's just a minor tweak you need to do there, and then everything should work out. So at the moment, I only have 5 entries. So that was kind of the sample data I put in. I put someone from Peru, from UK, something like that. But now, if I check this up, I already saw many people have entered their data. Thank you so much, guys. Please don't forget to fill in the otherwise it can give me trouble. But then, well, obviously, you will make some kind of data protection for cells if you don't want people to mess around your data source. But now I can go here, I can just go and click refresh. And what Power BI is going to do now is just going to get the data from that spreadsheet that is traveling across the world, right? It's traveling across the world. And look at this beauty. This is the beauty I love to show to people who are just starting the journey in Power BI. I capture that information. At the moment, I have 13 entries, valid entries, and Power BI took care of all that noise, you see? So here you have blank rows. You might have something that over here everything is blank. Some other people, they didn't complete the numbers. But anyway, behind the scenes, there's Power Query cleaning up the data, automating the process for me, and I can show the data. And this is your data, guys. being displayed in the UK. How cool is that, right? So this is one example. I'm just gonna come back now to my presentation, guys. I love to do that virtual live workshops. Everyone keeps telling me, "Oh no, don't do that because everything that you do live can make an error." But I never got any issues with that one, so I keep doing that one. So now, if you want to go even further to the level 1 that we said, live dashboard with SQL database, it's going to be quite similar. You go to get data, go to SQL Server, and in here, the only difference you are going to need to have the admin rights to access a particular database, right? So you will need to pop in the server name and the database. You have two options, import, direct query. I'm not going to go into the details, but they are different, the way you use them. And finally, you need to pop in your credentials. And that Power BI, what it's going to do is going to validate them, that you actually have got access to that particular database. Otherwise, you will need to talk to IT department, tell them, okay, can you give me the access? I want to use my database in Power BI. And they will need to work that out, right? So we are approaching the end of the presentation, I guess. As far as I know, I only have 1 hour, so I don't want to extend that much. So I'm just going to go now. We now know what is Power BI, what it can give to us, what are the data levels of connectivity, connectivity levels. Now we're going to see how we can use Power BI interacting with different tools, right? So just quick examples. One of them is Power Apps, right? So Power Apps is another service from Microsoft. It allows you to build your own custom business apps. It's quite cool. I don't have the full example here in these slides. I will need to jump into a different set of slides prepared for a different presentation. So in this one, again, I was explaining here what is the problem and what is the workflow that we were gathering information from different paper sheets or spreadsheets to make our report progress, right? In Excel. We want to change that. And the solution was we implemented, and this is a real life example. This is our project here in the UK, the TransPennine TRU, TransPennine route upgrade. So what we did is we implemented a control hub. That's how we call it. It's like control room, control hub. We name it that way. So what we have is big screens. We have 6 large mounted touch screens in this room. They have lifetime lapse pictures, so we could see the job on site. Every 10 minutes, it will be updated, all these pictures, so people from this room could control what was happening outside. And then we'll have Microsoft Teams, because that was the most common tool to use to communicate. We will have data coming from Primavera P6. So I don't know if you noticed that, but this is a Gantt chart over here. This is Primavera P6 data coming in. And this is actually, that data is displayed, but not on P6. This is a Power BI report that we have embedded on Microsoft Teams. So people will open their Microsoft Teams and they will find their report in here, in this screen, inside of their Microsoft Teams. That was really cool as well for them to have that available 24/7. And then we will kind of connect that to a Power App. So we built up an app using Power Apps from Microsoft. And this app will allow people on site to go and say, okay, I want to schedule my schedule update or milestones update. So whatever I'm completing here on site, I want to inform that using an app, right? Instead of filling up paper sheets or filling up a spreadsheet, that will be directly in your app through a tablet or through a mobile phone. They will input that. They will see statistics of what is the plan, number of milestones, the current, and so on. And finally, we use SharePoint to host that database. We use Power Automate to make that data to travel automatically from the Power Apps to Power BI, back and forth, and Microsoft Forms to input some commentary, because people also want to see not only the numbers, but they also want to see a commentary. So people were filling up Microsoft Forms just to get that narrative along the reports. So that was an example of how you can apply Power Apps together with Power BI, because it's a direct link between Power Apps informing the Power BI report live. So people on site filling this Power App on their mobiles. I completed that concrete pouring. Okay, I'm gonna mark this down, and that data will travel immediately to your Power BI report. So that was the solution we had in that scenario. So coming back here, coming back to my previous slides. So that was a solution, an application of that. Then we have another one. I have a short video here, how you can use Revit and Power BI. So you already know Revit, you use that for building information modeling. You can prepare reports of like this, where you can see the object, the structure model in Revit, and then you can see all the data that comes along that, schedule, quantities, all that, and you can see how that interacts. So if I go here, I'm just gonna go a little bit fast forward this because it takes a little bit of time. So you can see your data, your model in Revit, it has quantities, has material volumes, all that was in place before that connection. What I want to do now is I just want to make a quick connection to my Power BI, so it can inform Power BI. There are many ways to do that. You can do that by installing plugins. One of them is, I think it is called, if I go back here, it's not showing here, but Revit DB database. Revit DB is a plugin you can use in Revit, and you can kind of, from Power BI, you can import that data into this model. And now in my Power BI, I can have the quantities, I can have the model over here. You can see this is what we call the modeling part, right? So I have different data tables. I need to model them so they can speak the same language. If I go into the Power Query, I can click one, for example, I can click one of these tables. So this is the way the data flow into my Power BI from Revit, right? But it's not enough. It's gonna be data that probably is in a raw status. I need to transform that. So I need to use all the commands I have here and apply steps. So I need to merge queries, expand tables, filter rows, expand rows. All those steps are gonna get recorded here. And I only need to do them once. And once I finish that, then I don't need to worry about it. Then I just need to update my Revit, and that will inform Power BI directly. So that's kind of how it went. And then you can come here, and then for displaying things, I can select elements. So I'm selecting, filtering just that side of the structure, and it will tell me the volume, the duration. It will just filter out just to show me what is the Gantt chart for that element. And I can even see the S-curve of a concrete, how much concrete I'm pouring on each of the months. So this is time. So I can click on that. You see, if I click on that side of the dashboard, this is the November of that year, I can see that what I'm gonna pour of that structure are these pillars, are this foundation, this wall. So it's gonna highlight everything that we are gonna, and this kind of how you can enhance communication. If you want to explain this, the plan to your team, you can use this type of dashboard to explain them, okay, what we're gonna do this month, right? So this is kind of how you can produce this. And then if you just fast forward a little bit, you can go back to Revit. You can modify the model. So I can expand this foundation, for example. You can see that, and those numbers I can use. This is what I was mentioning before. Let me just go back here. You see Revit Devil Link. That is a plugin I just installed, and I can export that information into my Power BI directly. And once I click, what Revit is going to do is going to give the updated numbers of this foundation that has increased in size, right? So it's going to make a change on my Power BI, and then I just need to click refresh, and my new numbers will be reflected to my Power BI. So that's another example what we can do. And finally, I'm going to finalize the presentation with another example with Primera P6. We can connect Primera P6, that is a scheduling tool, in so many different ways to Power BI, different ways. So probably the easiest way will be just to take P6, export your data into a spreadsheet, and then that spreadsheet connect spreadsheet connected directly to Power BI, as we saw in the level 5 in data connectivity levels. Spreadsheet, Power BI. That is the easiest way, but it's obviously the most manual one, right? It's not that automated because you need to manually export from P6 to Excel and Excel to Power BI. So there are different other ways. Like, for example, you can export an XML. That is one of the file types you can get out of P6, and you can connect that XML to Power BI. You can use XCR files. That is a native file you get from P6, and you can connect that XCR to Power BI. Or finally, you can just connect Power BI directly to the SQL database from P6. Different approaches. You need to work them out in a different way. They're not going to be similar, different ways, but the data is going to be the same, right? And the way the output is going to be the same. It's just a different approach how you can get the data. And there are some examples here. But before I show you, I have a quick video on that. Before I show you that video, that kind of the high level message that I want to provide is this. As you have seen in the different examples, that Power BI actually can become this one-click reporting tool for project control. You can produce high impact dashboards with a click of a button and without relying on any spreadsheet. Of course, if you saw the connection with the Google Drive, I just went to my Power BI and just clicked refresh, and you never saw an Excel in between, right? I never got an Excel on my email or anything like that. I just click refresh, and that was that came down to my report. So that's kind of the most important message I want to highlight through this presentation. And then the example I had is something like this. So you can see this in my Power BI report, and I have all the trends, all the data that is coming off the back of P6. You can see how we analyze the schedule quality score, variance in terms of delays. I can go from one to a previous schedule update because I hold all the data sources connected to my Power BI. I can go even further. I can go to the integrity analysis. So I'm just trying to analyze how good the quality of my schedule is. So I want to analyze total float, high duration, lags, missing logic, and I can go here and see how many activities I have. I have, in this case, 5,233 and total number of activities for this project I'm assessing. But then if I go back to P6, you're going to find the exact same number in total activities, 5,233. And you can see how you can update that dashboard just by using XCR. This is example with an XCR. So I'm just going to jump into the percentages. So this is a S-curve. I got that data date 30th of May, and you can see that my progress is 49 at the moment. I'm still between my early and late curve, but I am really close to go under that late curve. That's really, really bad for the project. So I can see the delta is a negative delta. So I should be 73%. This is the planned value, but I only got 49. So I just want you to keep in mind those numbers because I'm going to show how we update that. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So I'm going to go to this project. I'm going to export that into a folder. It's going to be an XCR, an exported XCR from my P6. I'm going to name this a new period that from May should be June. I'm going to export that. It's exporting that. Obviously, I'm doing this faster. I have that XCR on a folder. And now what I need to do, again, the magic of Power BI. I go to Power BI and I just click what? I click refresh, guys. Only need to click refresh. And Power BI is going to read from that folder and it's going to read that there is a new XCR in there. It's going to capture that information. So before was May. Let's see how we do with the next period. It's going to take some time. So I'm going to fast forward that. And once it's finished, now I can see June. I can see the new values for June, how the score has dropped a little bit. It was before 90%, I think. Now it's come down to 87. So someone is doing a little bad the update probably. If I go here, I can see now I'm going to activate my June update. And now I can see that June has 5,267 activities. And I can compare that with my P6. I think I'm not showing that, but anyway, I go to this page and I just need to activate my latest period through this filter. And now I activated a June update, and I can see that from 46 was in the past, now it's 57, but still I'm approaching the lake curve, right? So this is how easy you can update your dashboard, your project controls dashboard, by using data from P6, from Power Apps, from Revit. Everything should be automatically, you know, that's kind of the aim, the purpose of this, getting this automatically. And I can see percentages by disciplines and all that stuff that you can get from P6, right? So I think that now I go here, and if I open that project that I just exported, we can see the same number. What I was trying to see here, the critical path, I can check my critical path and so on. So it's just to validate that the data is coming right. It's showing me the exact same data from P6 now in Power BI. So I could even show my critical path there in my Power BI report, because it's actually just displaying the data you have on your P6, right? So this is kind of what I wanted to show you. So previous update was 49. Now you can see that June 57%. So it was increasing the percentage. So takeaways of the session, guys. I hope you enjoyed this session. It was 1 hour full of examples, but with the use of Power BI, you could automate your entire reporting cycle. As you saw me before, you could update that Google Drive. We could update that P6, update that Revit, update from Power Apps. So you have such a big room for improvement and automating your own processes, you know. And the aim is to reduce the amount of time we spend consolidating data and how we manually produce reports in the past. So we want to prevent the errors associated with manual data consolidation, because now we don't do anything manual. Everything is done by Power BI. So we prevent those errors, and we provide real-time visibility to our project status. Yeah? Now, someone finalizes the P6 update, they just export the XCR, and now they can get the report of the backup of that immediately, right? So bottom line, we spend more time in data analysis. That's what we want to do. Spend more time in analyzing the data we see and flagging project issues instead of data preparation, collating data that was very manual, very repetitive in the past. So that's everything I got to tell you today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the session. I hope you found this insightful. I open the room for questions.
Thank you very much, GZ. That's pleasant and very insightful presentations.
Thank you, guys.
So for the attendees, please feel free if you have any inquiry or questions. Please send it to the chat box. Or maybe if you would like to open up your microphone to ask directly to our speakers, please feel free. Let me know, and we'll give you the access to open your microphones. So there is plenty of question, and this is a very interesting question. So GC, for some project team, we know that still using project reporting manually, and I would not saying that Excel is absolute software for the standalone software, but it is also very powerful software. But since you mentioned that it is time consuming doing a repetitive task, so I would like to ask to implement data analytics using Power BI, is it pretty simple or effortlessly for a project team to use? And this is the question aligned with our attendees. Do you have any reference for the step-by-step to apply this method?
It's a really good question. Of course, what I'm saying is that we want to reduce the amount of spreadsheets we tend to manipulate and so on. But I'm not going to say that we want to, let's say, remove or eliminate the use of Excel. Excel is a really powerful tool, help us a lot. Most of our engineers or project team members, they get along with Excel. So we want to keep that. So we want to give them that. We don't want to remove that from them. In fact, they can do a lot of data analysis using just Excel. The fact is that we want to move a little bit farther. We want to go take that leap and say, we want to automate things. We want to standardize the way we produce reports. And for that, getting along Power BI is that your best choice. So for standard reports, for automation, Power BI. For individual efforts, for your project teams to assess their own data and things like that, yeah, I would say like Excel is gonna be forever. It's not gonna disappear. But we do want to reduce the amount of Excel we use, mainly for these standard reports that we need to produce as a project team, as an organization, to our peers, right? So that's kind of the advice. And then for step by step, I also mentioned that I had some recommendations for further education. One of them is you can go to Microsoft Power BI. They offer a learning path. So this is for free. You can hop in. It's going to be the basics, but still it's really good information you can find itself. And Power BI, Microsoft is going to offer that because they want more people to start using Power BI. So this is a good resource. This is kind of to get grips with the basics. I would recommend you to go through. It's going to show you step by step of the basic stuff. Obviously, this is not going to cover everything we have seen in my example because that goes a bit more with more experience probably. But you need to start from somewhere, right? So starting from the basics, that is the main thing. And then the other sources, I do have a YouTube channel. Mainly is in Spanish, but I do have a playlist in English. So I have Power BI English, and I do show step by step. It's open to the public. So if you want to create your first S-curve with Power BI, I'm going to show you that step by step. So you can get a lot of insights as well from this playlist. If you know Spanish, you go ahead and hit all of them. But English is gonna be there. Power BI English. The way you find me is just need to type planning control in YouTube, and this is because plan and control, right? That's why we created that name. And then you can have a lot of useful resources there. Probably that creation of S-curve and things like that more focus on project controls. You're not going to find that in the Microsoft Learning Path because they're going to show you things like how you do a report for sales, for a company sales, and things like very, very generic type of reports, more linked towards the, sales, logistics, these type of topics. Yeah. Hopefully that helps that question.
Excellent. We have another questions from Ujang Sonjaya from YouTube channel. So asking about, is the Power BI free software to access for public?
Yes, indeed. And I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the presentation. You can go here, Power BI, oh, Microsoft, and you can download this for free. You can download this for free, and you can have your own. Power BI is comprised by two components. So you have a Power BI desktop, that is an application that gets installed in your computer, and then you have Power BI service, that is a cloud-based service provided by Microsoft. So you can download Power BI desktop. You can use that in the full mode in your computer. But Power BI service that is on the cloud, that is the one that is limited, has limited features for people for free. If you want to have that full the full suite of features in Power BI Service, you will need to buy a license. And that's kind of the business model of Microsoft, right? But start with Microsoft Desktop. You can do whatever you want. There is no limitation at all for free. And then when you want to go move into Power BI Service, yeah, you're going to be a bit constrained, but still you can use it. So you can just go here, start for free. You can create an account, a Power BI Service account for free, but it's going to be limited to the features you can do with a free license. But then you can, in products, you can say Power BI Desktop, and you can download that for free from the website.
Excellent.
Download for free, and then that will be in your computer, and that's a full license that doesn't have any constraint.
Okay, excellent. So there is also another questions from Denny Prasetyo, also from our YouTube channels. So he asking about how to curate data accurately to avoid redundant data and or irrelevant data from our data source, such as our Excel or our spreadsheets.
Right, that's a really good question, and that is kind of, it goes a little bit kind of above just Power BI, right? Because now we are trying to think about processes, and that's kind of like the important thing, I guess. When I was mentioning, I think that showing how you connect to the level 5, that moves basic. I had one slide before that saying like the way you should do that is basically you need to focus first on your requirements and then map out your data streams, your data flows, data sources, and all that. Identify who is responsible for each of those data sources, right? That information is coming from the logistics man or coming from the health and safety department. So they are accountable of them, and they need to put in place means for validate and approve that data flow, right? And that validation you can do in some extent. You can validate some of the data is coming in through Power BI, because Power BI in that transformation, that Power Query transformation, you can provide automated. You can check for errors and you can check for data quality. There are some features there, but they're not going to cover everything, because if you don't have in place processes within your team members, you could in the end capture into Power BI data that is not validated, right? So those steps, they have to be in place, because garbage in, garbage out, right? Even though you have a beautiful automated report, it could be potentially reporting garbage out just because you didn't put in place processes beforehand. So that people who is accountable, who is responsible, they need to take control of what data is coming into your Power BI, and they need to feel responsible. Then if they see crap coming out of Power BI, they need to feel responsible that it's their crap that is showing off in the period meeting or whatever. So that whatever we do in project controls is always comprised by people, processes, and systems. In this case, the system is Power BI. The process is something that people need to put in place as part of what they need to do, right? How they need to inform, how they need to give you that data. All those are processes. And well, the people is the people who have the knowledge, and they're accountable of all these things. So in fact, these are really good questions, and I cannot stress enough how important it is to get validated data in that process. Part of that, you can do it within Power BI, but there's going to be a good chunk of it that has to be outside of Power BI. No?
Perfect, excellent. So another question from Haryadi. He's asking, in order to share our data or information about our projects, do they need to also install the Power BI in their device to read the files?
It says, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so if we want to share our data or information to others,
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a great question, and that is no. We generally we don't want to share files, Power BI files with people. Right? The way Power BI works is basically you use Power BI desktop. You remember we were talking about desktop and service. So you download for free desktop, and desktop is kind of your data cruncher. Yeah, is where you're gonna do all the transformations. You're gonna shape the data, build the reports, all that. Once you have that done, you need to publish that, and you publish from desktop into Power BI service. That is this cloud-based service provided by Microsoft. You publish that, and that report, as it is, will go into the cloud. And it's from the cloud that you can share that to the end user. So people, what you're going to give to people is going to be a link, and you're going to paste that in your browser, and then people are going to have access to that report. But that comes again with the licensing issues, let's say. So for that part, that last part of the journey when you want to share and communicate, that is kind of what Microsoft is pushing you to invest a little bit in getting a license. It's going to allow you to do everything in Power BI desktop, build your beautiful dashboard, and then to share it is going to be kind of, obviously, the business model of Microsoft is you pay for that, so you be able to share. Although there are some free features in the Power BI service that you can publish to web. So there is a feature there, Power BI includes that in the free version of the service. You can publish that to web, and again, you get a link. The only thing is that link is not safe. It's not kind of restricted. So anyone with that link could enter that dashboard. And if you are showing sensitive information like commercial data or I know business data, you don't want that to be publicly advertised, right? So because if that link falls in the wrong hands, I can paste that link in my Facebook, in my Instagram, and anyone will be able to see it. So that's why in the pro features of Power BI service that you need to pay to Power BI, they will give you this feature that is how you can share privately, how you can share safely, secure information through links. But that doesn't come with a free version, you know?
Excellent, perfect. So there's a question from Adia Parwa, and I think this is already answered from you about our security data in Power BI. So I will go forward for Mark Lee Leonardi. He said that this is very interesting, and he hoped that you can show maybe from your YouTube channels. Is there any daily basis for one-day simulations, especially with Scrum or Kanban, using these tools? Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm not that close to Kanban and Agile methods, but you can find many in detail day-to-day ways how you can work with Power BI in my channel, my YouTube channel. I have plenty of videos on that. So probably if you're the best call, you go jump into the channel.
Okay, perfect. So there's also another question from Denny Eka Prasetya. He's asking about from your project experiences, how it could Power BI make faster decision making with the integration of our data.
That's a really good question. And I have a video to show you guys. I didn't include that in the presentation today, but I have a video that actually will respond to the previous and this current question. The previous was about one-day simulation, and this current one is about how we can use that data for faster decision making. So this is a video, 24 hours in a control room. So that control room I was telling you, we record our people. Let me just go back here. Oh, I got lost. You're looking at my screen, right?
Yes.
I don't know if that comes with sound for you, but anyway, it's important. So this is 24 hours in the control room, and you can see people using Power BI screens, Power Apps. They were entering data through the Power Apps. They were checking the Power Apps, the Power BIs, and everything was live. Everything was automated. So people were going to the screens. They were understanding what was the state of the project at the blink of an eye, and they will go back, call the people, ask them why that was delayed, why they are changing the construction method and things like that. But it's all instantly done, you know. It's not that, oh, I need to produce report, I will tell you how the project is in 2 days. No, it's happening. So as construction is going on site, you can see that data live on your control room, on your computer, on any Power BI dashboard. So this kind of simulation of real life, and this is what you can get out of a business intelligence tool. You get the data instantly, and then you can make informed decisions off the back of that, right? So hopefully that example gives you some hints.
Yeah, perfect. So I think this is the last question from Ujang Sonjaya, also from our YouTube channels. Can you suggest for maybe for the first step, if we want to integrate P6 and Power BI for our project control?
So he wants to know about how we can integrate Primavera P6.
Yeah, do you have like any suggestion to take a course maybe, or maybe like a project, something like that?
So if you haven't used Power BI in the first place, I would recommend you to go through Microsoft Learning Path. That is the basics. You need to get grips with the basic stuff, because connecting to Primavera P6, to databases, it's a bit more complex. It's not difficult, but it's a bit more complex. So it takes time. You need to build up your skills gradually, you know. And then I guess go through the basics, learn how to use Power BI. I would recommend anyone to go to my YouTube channel. I have, for example, how to create an S-curve using Primavera P6 data. There's one video on there. This is quite popular. Many people want to know how to create an S-curve from P6 in Power BI. So that's one of the most popular I have in my YouTube. So that is an example, but that is just a tiny sample of what you can do with Power BI and Primavera P6. But it's just giving those steps that will help you to understand what is the best way, because in the end, there's so many ways you could do the same thing in Power BI. So it's not one only way. If someone's telling you this is the best way, or this is the only way you could connect, he will be lying. There's so many ways you can do that, right? And you just need to start learning step by step, right?
Okay, perfect, excellent. So unfortunately, we already come to our end of sessions. So we would like to say thank you very much, GZ, for your for your attention, for your presentations, and thank you for addressing these very insightful sessions. But before we let GC go, I would like to remind our attendees that please switch on your camera and let's take a group of photo on the Zoom so that we keep it as a momentous. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, I will start taking the picture, yeah.
Okay.
Please hold the chat first because it keep appearing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, done.
Okay, thank you very much. So we already end to the off sessions. Thank you, GC. Thank you very much.
No, thank you guys. And if you can share that picture with me, that would be amazing. I would love to see how many people, at least the faces of the people that I was talking to. It was really nice to meet you guys, huh?
And yes,
It was a pleasure.
today is full book, JC, and also around 30 people watching on YouTube. So it's actually around 130 joining the session.
Hopefully. Please stay in touch. Stay in touch. Add me on LinkedIn. Keep in touch. Tell me about your endeavors and your efforts learning Power BI, and I will try to help you as much as I can.
Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, JC. See you next time.
See you guys. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Yes, thank you.